Welcome to PAB 2010.
Well, let's talk about Mac. Mac is a blogger, wrote a blog for 6.5 years, frequent podcast guest. His area of expertise was all things Martian and futuristic. He was a published author, working on a second manuscript, and hung out on Twitter a lot, had a website they used to get speaking gigs. He was a barista. He used to pour coffee for a living. 2 cats named Spook and Ebe. Very well liked in the community of people that he built online. So then last Sunday, October 18th, the average day, he went to his parents' place, had dinner there, went home, wrote a blog post, hung out on Twitter for a while, went to bed, died in his sleep of a misdiagnosed heart condition at the age of 34. So then what happens to his community? What happens to his digital life? What happened that with all those ripples that were caused by Mac's death? Well, sadly, he lived alone and nobody knew that he had died. And so people started showing up on his blog saying, "Hey, Mac, where you been? It's been a couple of days. Just, I hope you're having computer problems. I hope you're just like head down because I know you're dropping your manuscript off at the publisher this Thursday. Like, where you been? We're missing you." And then somebody shows up 4 days later, anonymously posts that Mac has died. "Oh, I'm so sorry, but Mac has died." Anonymous. Community freaks out. "What do you mean? That's a joke and really poor taste. And how dare you come here and say those things?" It was later found out that this anonymous poster was actually a co-worker of Mac's. And he had called Mac's parents to say, "Hey, Mac hasn't shown up for work for 4 days." And they went over to his apartment and they found him there. So then there was a flurry of activity that happened in Mac's final blog post. His final blog post became the place where people came to grieve, the place where his friends came together to talk about him, to remember him, to talk about the work that he'd done. His parents showed up, his parents sent message through somebody else and left a comment on the blog. His parents didn't own a computer, and they had no idea about Mac's digital life. They had no idea who Citizen Mac was in the internet as opposed to their son Mac. And they were confounded by all these messages of grief and this outpouring of support. And I'll get back to Mac a little later. So where are we? Here's where we are. We're all over. Maybe you've got a blog, or you probably have a podcast if you're in this room, photos, but then there's other things too. There's gaming, online gaming. Maybe you like Second Life or World of Warcraft. My husband plays World of Warcraft. He's played with the same guys for 5 years. Now, if my husband were to, hopefully not, knock on wood, get hit by a bus, how would I know who to talk to in World of Warcraft to let them know, his online community, his buddies, that he's gone? I don't play World of Warcraft. I have no idea. I do now, but maybe you've got an Amazon account. Maybe you've set up a virtual store. Maybe you're earning money on the web. Maybe you've got a PayPal account. Maybe you've got an ING virtual account. Maybe you've got affiliate links for GoDaddy. Maybe you've got a successful website and you're getting banner advertising. All of these things, income is tied up. Who knows about this stuff? Now, the other things to think about here are file format obsolescence. So let's say you have a Word document from 1989. Do you think you're going to be able to open it now? Chances are not. So everything that you're saving now and the file formats that you're saving now, are people going to be able to open those in 10 years, 20, 50? Who knows? The other thing is media, the actual media degradation. I talked to somebody after one of my presentations who came to me and said, "I opened a CD of baby photos that I had. My child is 5 years old. I couldn't open them. The CD had degraded. So, and this is pretty serious stuff. It's stressing you out. I'm so sorry. So there's this so there's this movement to digitize because memory capacity is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's getting cheaper and cheaper to do it. And you can share it really easily, and it's really easy to access. The problem is, for any sort of longevity, keeping an archive is actually very expensive, because keeping an archive isn't just throwing it on a hard drive. It's making sure that you can access that file format in 50 years. It's people actually curating these digital files and bringing them up to the next standard every time there's something new that comes out. It's creating an access structure where if the file format, where the data is stored isn't actually structured in a way where people can access it, then Connie can tell you all about this. Librarian, you can tell us, you can probably tell us about this as well. That if the data isn't actually structured for people to be able to access it, it's as good as dead. I mean, there's no data. So why is this so messed up? Well, because development is forward-focused. And it's the Wild West out there. I mean, the internet's really 15 years old. So development is forward-focused. They're just looking to get users. They're looking to grow their businesses. They're not thinking about closing out accounts. They're not thinking about termination of accounts. Why? Because there's no money in it. There's no money in that. That's just an added service. Why should I take resources off of building this platform to take care of something like that? So this rapid change, this rapid growth, these sweeping terms of service policies that are in place right now. Facebook's terms of service policies actually has more words than the US Constitution by about 1,200. Nobody reads terms of service agreements. Who can blame you? So there's these sweeping terms of service agreements that really limit your ability to move your data around and have control of your data. So why bother? Well, because telling stories is primeval. Everybody wants to do it. Everybody wants to share their story. Now, you might not want to share it with the world, but you might want to share it with your loved ones, with your kids, your siblings, your close friends. And so, what do you need to do? Now you've got this digital package out there. Now what do you need to do? Well, that's another presentation. That's about planning. But why would you want to do it? Well, it's about relevance. So John Meadows, there you are. In my very first time I spoke about this, it came up. Well, I wouldn't want to save my Twitter accounts. I wouldn't want to save my tweets. They're useless. And it came up from a historical perspective. This is the first time that we've been able to actually easily access the day-to-day activities of somebody's life. Prior to that, it was day-to-day activities were either self-journaled or a biographer did it. And you had to pay a biographer to do it. And so it was nobility that really had that. So this is the first time we've been able to do that. Personal family history. Scarborough Dude was talking about would he want his sons to listen to his podcast? Maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't. But that's another relevant reason to want to do it. And other people go, no one's going to care about my life, and my heirs are not going to have the time to go through this gigantic mess of digital files. So there's a huge, from save everything, it's a great historical record, to no one's going to care about this. So then what do you have to do? You have to plan for it, or you got to let it go. So there's lots of things you can do to plan for it. You can start archiving things. There are archival services that are coming out in the very near future that will manage your data and bring it up to the next level for you. They are paid services, of course, so it's like any ongoing trust that you're going to have if you want this data to live on. Or, in the words of Sylvain Carl, who is a developer in Montreal, and I usually close all my presentations with this, he says, maybe death is a good time to go offline.